It's as strong as a spell. I'll never tell. Yeah, I like you, that's for sure.
Hi guys, welcome back to Exmo Lex. Today we'll be continuing the series where we examine the LDS Church using the BITE model of authoritarian control to determine whether the church qualifies as a destructive cult. We've already discussed several points, and this video will be added to that growing playlist so you can watch those videos and decide for yourself based on the information. Remember, hitting one point on the BITE model doesn't make a group a cult. That's why it's important to look closely. Links to all sources, which will be directly from the church itself, will be in the description, as well as links to more information about the BITE model. Today we'll be focusing on a point under behavior control, the B in BITE model: financial exploitation, manipulation, or dependence. Does the Mormon Church financially exploit its members? Does it use finances in any way to manipulate them or create dependency? So let's start with the basics. The LDS Church teaches its members to adhere to the law of tithing. What is tithing? Here's what it says about tithing on the church website. The Bible indicates that God's people followed the law of tithing anciently. Through modern prophets, God restored this law once again to bless his children. To fulfill this commandment, church members give 1/10 of their income to the Lord through his church. These funds are used to build up the church and further the work of the Lord throughout the world. Now keep in mind, this does not include fast offerings, which is a separate donation that the church expects of its members. On the first Sunday of every month, Mormons are expected to fast for 2 meals and then donate the money they would have spent on food to the church. We're not even going to go into all of that because tithing is the one that the church focuses more heavily on, and the one I believe that is the real problem, but I wanted to make sure that we at least mentioned fast offerings. So tithing, 1/10 of your income. And your bishop will verify this with you once a year during what used to be called tithing settlement, but they recently changed it to tithing declaration. They will also verify it with you every time you ask for a new temple recommend. And it doesn't matter how rich or poor you are, everybody is required to pay 10%. Notice that I say required. I've actually had several Mormons argue this point with me, and even the church sometimes tries to soften the blow by saying it's something like a voluntary donation. Listen to this quote from a blurb on the church's website. All funds given to the church by its members are considered sacred. They are voluntary offerings that represent the faith and dedication of members and are used with careful oversight and discretion. So in this one, they call it a voluntary offering. But typically, from almost every prophet, apostle, and church handbook, we hear how this isn't really optional. Here's what Marion G. Romney, the second counselor in the first presidency of the church, had to say about it. My sincere counsel to all who receive this message is, pay your tithing and be blessed. Tithing is not a free will offering. It is a debt, payment of which brings great blessings. Not a free will offering. That's a whole lot different from voluntary offering, right? The Mormon teaching pamphlet, Tithing and Fast Offerings, says, the commandment to pay tithing, which was restored through the prophet Joseph Smith, gives you an opportunity to participate in building up the kingdom of God on earth. Obedience to this commandment is a requirement for baptism into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So even doing something as simple as formally joining the church at all requires 10% of your income. But they go further than that. Even if you can't afford to pay tithing, you are still expected to pay. In 2012, the official church magazine, The Ensign, published this. If paying tithing means that you can't pay for water or electricity, pay tithing. If paying tithing means that you can't pay your rent, pay tithing. Even if paying tithing means that you don't have enough money to feed your family, pay tithing. Even if you don't have enough money to feed your family. Mormon prophet Spencer W. Kimball said, the poor have special need to tithe. There are people who say they cannot afford to pay tithing because their incomes are small. They are the people who need the blessings of the Lord. No one is ever too poor to pay tithing, and the Lord has promised that he will open the windows of heaven when we are obedient to his law. And then he goes on to say, the tithing principle is a solution for poverty. Giving your money to the church will solve your poverty. Now, where does dependence come in? Right at about the point where the church will only help struggling families if they are receiving tithing from them. In a talk literally titled Tithing, a Commandment Even for the Destitute, Lynn G. Robbins of the First Quorum of the 70 said, no bishop, no missionary should ever hesitate or lack the faith to teach the law of tithing to the poor. The sentiment of, they can't afford to, needs to be replaced with, they can't afford not to. One of the first things a bishop must do to help the needy is ask them to pay their tithing. Like the widow, if a destitute family is faced with the decision of paying their tithing or eating, they should pay their tithing. The bishop can help them with their food and other basic needs until they become self-reliant. This organization, which, need I remind everyone, is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, is supposed to refuse to help the needy of their congregation unless they are receiving 1/10 of their income. What if you can't afford to pay a full tithe, but you want to do your best, you're trying to be righteous? Let's say you can pay 5%. Does that count? Well, according to the church, not really. Those who give less do not really pay tithing. They are lesser contributors to the latter-day cause of the Lord. Honestly, that sounded like a guilt trip to me, a manipulation. If you're not giving the full amount, you're really not doing anything. And here's where, in my opinion, the most disgusting manipulation happens. According to the doctrine of the church, in order to qualify for a temple recommend and in turn qualify for the celestial kingdom, the highest level of heaven, where you will be with your family forever, you must give 10% of your income to the church. Temple Recommend interview question number 10. Are you a full tithe payer? This is serious within the church, and I feel like a lot of members are prepared to stick their head in the sand rather than confront this issue head on. But the church leadership has made it very clear. Elder Melvin J. Ballard of the Quorum of the 12 said, "Do we not hope and expect to have an inheritance in the celestial kingdom, even upon this earth in its redeemed and sanctified state? What are the terms under which we may obtain that inheritance? The law of tithing is the law of inheritance. It leads to it. No man may hope or expect to have an inheritance on the celestial globe who has failed to pay his tithing. By the payment of his honest tithing, he is establishing a right and a title to his inheritance, and he cannot secure it upon any other terms but by complying with this and other just requirements. And this is one of the very essential things." Elder Hartman Rector Jr. of the First Quorum of the 70 said, "Then those who walk in holiness before the Lord, which includes the payment of tithing, will have an eternal family at the last day. And those who do not pay tithing will have none." Tithing is necessary in order to receive the blessings of the temple. If a man were to keep all of the Lord's commandments, with the exception of tithing, he still could never be married for time and all eternity in the temple. Thus, he would have neither roots nor branches at the last day. Then this becomes really serious, since there is no exaltation without your family. Without tithing, there is no exaltation. If you don't give 1/10 of your income to the church, you lose your chance at exaltation and your eternal family. If that isn't blatant financial exploitation and manipulation, I don't know what is. Let me know what your thoughts are on this in the comments, and stay tuned so you don't miss future videos in this series. My hope is that once this series is finished, it will be a very easy place for people to examine the LDS Church using the BITE model, using church sources, and decide whether or not the church is a destructive cult. Huge thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel, and extra special thank you to Craig Call, Doug Davis, Megan Haycock, Noble Monster Comics, and the Exmo Candle Company for supporting at the Demon tier on my Patreon. I appreciate you guys so much. Check the description for links to all my other social media, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!
Yeah, I like you, that's for sure. Never have to close the door. Been a long time, a year before, and I'm missing you so bad.